Can you tell us how you ended up near Amish country?
It's a simple answer.
Do you have a garden? What does it look like?
I feel bad for my viewers because best thing you can do is to...
Was there something that surprised you after you moved there?
No, I'm still the typical American.
How does that affect you, or how do you handle that?
That's such a loaded question.
Did that affect or influence your interest in canning?
I'm going to make a ton of money and I'm going to make it right away.
Share with us some things that God is doing in your life.
Jesus, help me have the patience. I just thought there was something so beautifully romantic about, I use that in soups, stews.
You are from a Hispanic ethnicity. Can you share what that was like growing up?
So I try to focus on one skill at a time and try to master that skill. The most important thing was to be able...
Hello, friends. Welcome to our Forjars podcast. And today we have our special guest, Leilani from Make It Make.
Thank you so much for having me.
Leilani, thank you so much for coming to visit us. Before we get started, we did want to let you know that we do have our third guest that is lined up for next month. And viewers, we would love to hear your guesses on who you think it is. So write in the comments and let's see if you get it right. So Leilani, we are so excited to get to know you a little bit more. We've spent some time in the kitchen preparing, doing some canning, but we want to get to know you a little bit more, I guess, how you come to be where you are at. So let's go ahead and start. Leilani, can you tell us a little bit about your family? I know your husband and you have 2 children.
Yes, on my word, you're about to sum it all up. We're pretty simple. Yes, I've been married for 20 years now.
Wow.
And I have 2 beautiful children. Thank you, Jesus. I have a 19-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I have 2 dogs whom I love so very much. One is older. She's about 14 years old, and she certainly acts older.
Have they been with you, with the kids, since they were little?
Yes. Yeah. Well, except for the one dog. A funny story I have to tell you about the one dog, but when it pertains to the kids. And then we just have a new dog, Daphne, who is just 2.5 years old, and she's insane.
Wow. My kids keep asking for a dog and I keep putting it off, but I hear so many people love that their kids get to grow up with.
Yeah, it teaches them a lot of responsibility, I think, but you know, it also is sort of like having another kid. So.
Yeah, that's what scares me.
It is. Yeah, sometimes, you know, it's just like you go to sit down, everybody's taken care of, and then your dog just kind of looks at you and it's like, what do you need now? What do you need now? But they are just such beautiful blessings. I feel like God has just given us on this earth, just like, here you go, here's a dog.
So getting to know you a little bit more over this past couple of days, I know that faith is a big part of your life. Can you share with us maybe some things that God is doing in your life today?
You know, that's such a loaded question, and I could go so deep into that. All I could say is that I would not be the person that I am today if it weren't for my faith in Christ. I wouldn't even have YouTube if it weren't for my faith in Christ. Everything in my life revolves around God and prayer.
I think this resonates with us as a company because that is, I think, a big thing for the owners of Forjars as well. And so we love that we can share that together.
Yes, that is probably one of the most beautiful things I have seen God work in my career in YouTubing, is being able to see, you know, God's blessings. When I first started YouTube, it was one of those things that I literally was so impatient at that point in my life. And I knew that starting YouTube would take patience. So every single time I would work on the channel, I wanted instant results, as we all do in life. We want instant results. It's an American thing, you know, have it your way is a saying, you know, and then tapping on the iPad, the iPhone, instant, immediately. And as I was journeying through YouTube, I remember God like just saying, Leilani, you're going to need patience for this. Take deep breaths. And I just remember every time I felt impatient, I would just take deep breaths and just, Jesus, help me have the patience. And I learned a lot of patience through that process. And then as it was evolving, being able to be in contact with a company whose core values was standing on that, I mean, it absolutely was God. You don't find a lot of companies that have those core values. I mean, that was just huge. It was huge for my family with traveling and trust and being able to come into prayer before we start. I mean, it's huge. And it says a lot about the company and the people that work here.
So Leilani, you are from PA, and Philly is known, or PA is known for its Philly cheesesteaks.
Yes.
I know from Hershey's. I don't know if you've ever been.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Hershey's company.
chocolate.
But it is also known as Amish country.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you ended up near Amish country?
Well, it's a simple answer. I was born here, but when I got married, I saw more of the Amish because we had moved to more of the Amish country. I grew up mainly in the city, so
In PA?
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up mainly in the city in Lancaster County. You didn't see like a whole lot of Amish. It was like once in a while because it was like city area. But when I got married, I moved to a more rural area. And that's when the Amish and Black Bumper Mennonite were more around. They were there more. It was more populated in certain areas of Lancaster than others.
Is your husband more from that area? Is that why you guys moved more towards rural, or
No.
was it just kind of like once you got married?
No,
that
it was
a
work that brought us there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely different from, being more of a city girl and moving into the middle of like nowhere.
where you have to start farming.
Yeah, it was really just different. You make it make.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked a lot about you living near the Amish community. Did that affect or influence your interest in canning in any way?
It did when I first moved into the rural areas of Pennsylvania. There was a woman there who befriended me, and she just happened to be Mennonite. And that was actually the first time I really saw canning in someone's home. And I had asked her what those jars were. Because I just thought they were just so beautiful. And she's like, oh, that's canning. And then I said, could you explain to me the process, what this is? I still didn't really understand what it actually really was. So she gave me a jar, and I just remember just putting it in the fridge. Because I really didn't understand like
What you do with
what
it.
you do with
Yeah.
it. And then I just remember opening the fridge and seeing this jar of beets. It was a jar of beets. And just kind of looking at it, and every time opening the fridge, looking at the beets, I just thought there was something so beautifully romantic about the aesthetics of it. I know that sounds crazy to some people, but I just fell in love with the beauty of it. And that's sort of like what sparked my interest. Then I asked her about it. And then I said, could you teach me? And we did 2 cans together, which was tomatoes and beets. I believe it was beets. And then from then on, I bought a book and kind of went on by myself.
Wow. What do you love the most about Amish country, where you live? Was there something that surprised you after you moved there?
Well, I mean, again, you're shaping somebody who is just used to more of the city life, the fast pace, everything is close. When you move to more of a rural area, and I'm not like super far, but it is different because you have to drive everywhere as opposed to being able to walk.
Yeah.
People were at that time a little less inclined to come visit because you're so far.
Yeah.
Everything is a drive.
Yeah.
It's just a drive.
What about getting to the store? How close is your closest grocery store?
Well, right now it's super close. I can actually walk to.
Okay.
So where I live right now, I feel like I have the best of both worlds. It's like you're close enough, but when you look out the window, it's all farming on our left side. So it looks like you're in the middle of nowhere.
It's probably beautiful.
It is. And so, but then I feel like we're cheating it because it's like now, we can walk to the store, but the other house that we lived in, it was not like that. You had to drive. You could not walk to the store. You had to drive everywhere.
Was there something that I think I mentioned before, something that surprised you about living in that area or being surrounded by, I guess, a different type of people?
Well, when I lived in Denver, because it was it was surprising to me to see everybody biking everywhere. I mean, it was to the point where they had bike shops
Wow.
on the roads, and it was funny to just see everybody just biking everywhere because I mean they were either biking or they used the horse and buggy to get places. So I just thought it was funny that there were all these bike shops where I was just like, who has bike shops in every corner?
Do you find that you're biking now or still getting there?
No, I'm still the typical American. I drive everywhere.
Do you see yourself staying there where you're at?
I mean, I see myself staying there. That's where my heart is. But I know now, just every single time I have my mind set on something, God's just like, no, we're going to go this route. So I'd like to, but you never know what God has in store.
That's awesome. Leilani, Make It Make. What was the reasoning for the name, or how did you come to that?
I actually borrowed a vacuum cleaner from a friend, and the cord broke, and I had to tell her that I broke her vacuum cord, and she had an Amishman fix it. I mean, vacuum was probably from the 1950s, so
Wow.
I couldn't even believe that she went to go get it fixed. But she was old school. She's like, "That's
Well,
my vacuum."
even an Amish man fixed it? That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
how is
So
that?
yeah. So like I was like, okay, she was old school. She wanted that vacuum. That was her vacuum. And so an Amishman fixed it, and he's like, I couldn't get it to make, so I had to make it make. And I was like, make it make. And then I was like, just making it work with what he had, and he fixed it like nothing, which is not surprising. So that just kind of stayed in my head, and I was like, you know what? That's kind of like my life. I feel like I've always just made things work with what I had. So make it was.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you can kind of use that from your life and bring it into what you're doing now. So how old were you when you first started canning? How old were you when that?
All right. So I'm 44 now. So it was about 26 years old, I believe, when I started canning.
So after we did the mental math there really quickly, 18 years old. So
18 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
18 years now that you've been canning.
Yes.
So that's a long time.
Yes, it is.
So what do you love most about the canning process?
I really just love being able to provide for my family good, nutritious food. I know what's in the food. I know where it was grown. Because we're so fortunate and blessed to live in Pennsylvania, where it's different parts of Pennsylvania. It's like the mecca of fresh produce. And you could talk to the farmers there. You could,
where it's coming from. The
you know
ground
where,
that's
exactly.
coming
You know
from.
where it's coming from, especially the relationships. So thankful to God that I have now that I've been able to establish. I'm having these relationships with these farmers. I'm supporting a small business, which I'm huge, in doing so. And bringing that to my home, I know where it is. It's nutrition, the convenience of it. Teaching my family how to have a skill set that nobody will ever be able to take away from them.
Yeah.
And then just having the convenience of it. I mean, sometimes families get really busy. We're running around, we're doing things. And I do occasionally forget, like, oh my word, what am I going to be cooking for supper today? So I can just go downstairs to my pantry, pop something open, and serve it over rice or potatoes. And it's quick, it's convenient.
They're ready to go.
Ready to go. Also, just the whole calming serenity of it, the smell that it brings in the house, the memories it's going to bring to my children. I mean, there's really so much to
Positive.
it. Yeah, positive things for it. And then at the end of a very long canning day, you could see the production of your work. It's very satisfying.
So Leilani, you are from a Hispanic ethnicity. Can you share what that was like growing up in America?
So growing up in a traditional Hispanic household is different than some of my friends who were around the block, even down to meals. I mean, I never ever asked my family what was for dinner. I always knew what was for dinner. It was some form of rice and beans, some form, whether it was for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I mean, we would have cereal, but most of the time it was just traditional Puerto Rican food. I remember going over to my best friend's house, who was just down the street, and they had a vegetable that I never knew what it was, and they were very surprised. And I said, "What is this?" And they said, "It's squash." And I was like,
"You've never seen squash?"
And I'm just like, "Well, we don't eat squash.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, if we have squash, it would just be like an acorn squash." And I didn't even know that it was an acorn squash until like later in life. It was just like mixed with the beans. Another thing that was different was when I was 19 years old, I was invited to a potluck party, and I never knew what a potluck party was. And people were just kind of looking at me like, "You don't know what a potluck party is?" And they're like, "You just bring food." And I'm like, "Oh, well,
I can
bring
that.
I can bring food." And then I said, "Well, okay, this must be different. What kind of food should I bring?" They're like, "Why don't you bring a vegetable tray?" So I was just like, "Oh, that's different, because we don't really do that. Everybody just brings like different, rice, or bring benin or pasteles or something like that if we're having a traditional family get together." So I brought like this vegetable tray, and then I remember being there, and it just felt so different because there was no rice. There was no rice, and I felt like my plate was empty.
Yeah.
And it felt like wrong to me because I was like, "Where's the rice? That's the food." And in my mind, it felt like it was all like side dishes. So
And you didn't have your main course.
You didn't have the main food because, for me, the main food was the rice.
Yeah.
You had rice with everything.
Did you ever think to introduce your food to your friends?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times they'd ask, like, "Oh, we want some Puerto Rican food," and I'm just like, "Yeah, sure," But it was that also, just even celebrating holidays was different. Like, we celebrate Noche Buena.
Yeah.
So I just remember one time, I don't even know how I was even allowed to do this, but I knocked on my friend's door Christmas morning. I'm like, "What did you get for Christmas?" And she's like, "We're opening presents right now." And I was like, and I felt like so rude. And I just was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like, they're celebrating Christmas." Because for us, we celebrate Noche Buena,
And so that's the night before.
That's the night before, yes.
Yeah.
And we opened them around midnight, and that was our Christmas.
Yeah.
And people find that so strange, and even now that I'm married to my husband, who is, American, but it worked out because for his family, it's Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And then for us, it's Noche Buena.
So you can, you have that time.
It was very easy to get our families together and do that.
Do you find that you're trying to keep, I guess, your traditions alive with your kids?
I mean, as much as I possibly can. I mean, I have to say I've just become I am American, but just traditionally, like, I haven't kept a lot of the foods. I think it's because I've eaten it every single day of my life.
Yeah. That you're ready to try new things.
Well, and I've really just embraced the Lancaster County culture.
Yeah.
And my husband is a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
Yeah.
And just introducing variety was nice. I'll tell you a funny story, though. When my husband and we were moving from one house to another, there was a 1-week buffer where we had to stay with my parents. And my husband was so excited because he was like, "We're going to have Puerto Rican food every single night." And I was like, "Are you sure about this? Because that's all they can cook." Like,
he didn't know what he was really getting into.
I can do it because I've done it my whole life. Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then we would eat. And then the next day eat. And then it was just like, I told him, lunch, it's going to be rice. Supper, it's going to be some sort of rice. And then finally we get to our house. It's the first night that we're actually there. And he was like, "Oh, I am so glad we don't have to eat rice and beans." And then I felt bad because I was like, "Man, we've been having some good Puerto Rican food. I think I'm going to make some rice and beans for our first meal in our new home, And he's like, "So what's for dinner?" And I was like, "Rice and beans." And he's like, "I'm getting a sub." So,
Yes. But
you
that's
know.
awesome that he's open to that. That's I think that's a blessing to be able to share that.
He's actually been really good at trying a lot of the real traditional Puerto Rican foods that some people are just like, I don't know about that, but he'll eat anything. He's just been a great sport in just trying new things.
That's wonderful. Do you find yourself speaking in Spanish to your kids?
Sometimes. Sometimes, not a whole lot. Their main language really is English.
English. You were saying that Pennsylvania is the mecca of the fresh produce.
Yeah.
Do you have fresh produce of your own? Do you have a garden?
Yes, I do. So that is still a work in progress.
What does it look like?
I feel bad for my viewers because, I'm just like, hey, this year we're gardening. And then this year we're not. But last year we gardened. We gardened a couple years before. This year we are going to garden. We'll see how it goes. It's a small garden. We're planting a couple different things.
What are some of your top things that you want to plant for this year?
Tomatoes.
Okay.
Tomatoes for sure. I'm super excited about planting this sweet pea currant tomato. It literally lives up to its name. It's the size of a pea.
Oh, wow.
And it's like having little pieces of candy growing in the
I
garden.
have never heard of that.
It's so good. So good.
Would you just use it like in salads?
Oh,
or-
yes. And that's the thing is that because they're so tiny, like a pea, you don't have to cut nothing. You just throw it in the salad and then you have it, or you could just eat it again
amazing.
like pieces of candy. So I'm excited for those.
Did gardening also, I guess from what you're talking about, that not every year you garden.
Right.
So was gardening something that you started to look into because you were canning? Or
Yes, because I mean, for me, it's been the whole homesteading thing.
Yeah.
Has been an evolution for me, an evolving thing for me. I figured if I'm going to do this homesteading thing, and I say that very lightly because I don't know if I can truly say I'm like this homesteader because I don't have like these 4 acres or whatever. That's sort of standard for what most people would think a homesteader is. But for me, I'm just doing what I do. I make it make. So I try to focus on one skill at a time and try to master that skill, which first skill was canning. And now I'm trying to slowly move on into gardening. And hopefully, I don't know if you could ever master gardening because it's a different beast every year when it comes to, soil problems, nutrition, bugs,
temperatures,
the weather. The weather's a huge factor in it as well. So slowly now working on another skill, master one skill and then slowly move on to the next skill. And then hopefully when you have a handle on that, then go on to the next one.
It's amazing. Do you find that because of that, the health of your family has improved because of the canning, because of having your own fresh produce?
Mm-hmm. I think that the education is definitely helping us improve on what we eat. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, before, I was just blindly eating whatever. But through canning, you learn so much from farmers and you start asking questions. You start branching out in your thinking. Mm-hmm. So absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing. Would you consider running your YouTube and Instagram? Is it a source of income or is it more of a hobby for you?
Well, I would say both. I just feel so blessed that I was able to take a skill set, a hobby, if you will, and turn it into an income. I don't want to mislead people by thinking that it's like this huge income. That was never my goal. My goal originally was to create a job that I could stay home with my daughter and homeschool her. And it was a chance that my husband and I were willing to take. And it was a process. It's not something that happens overnight unless you are a unicorn YouTuber who gets monetized in like 3 months. It happens. But for most people, it takes time.
Yeah.
And it worked out enough for me to, be able to stay at home and help financially, which it's been quite a blessing.
Well, I think even earlier we talked about earlier in the podcast, you talked about how it was a process.
Yes.
It was a process for you to get there, patience through the hard times.
So much patience. So you have to be realistic when it comes to YouTube. I think a lot of people get on and they're just like, I'm going to make a ton of money and I'm going to make it right away because we live in this instantaneous world of everything fast, fast, fast. You know, I made sure that I listened to other YouTubers that knew the business and that I was relatable to me, and took their advice seriously. I mean, I remember waking up before the kids got up, 5 o'clock in the morning, and just studying and studying and studying, because at that time there was no book on how to do YouTube. You just had to really be dedicated and determined to learn it.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing was to be able to have this be organic, like growing your audience organically, never paying for subscribers, never asking people to subscribe. I think I did that like on one video. I just truly wanted people to be like, well, if they like the content, they'll subscribe. I really wanted it to be a community of people who just wanted to see anything that I had. Maybe they felt like it was valuable to them. Growing organically is huge, I think, for a YouTuber. And they can see that on the screen. They really can see.
You really do feel it. You feel the difference if it's natural or if it's something that you're trying to like push.
Yeah. Another thing I'm sorry, I have to say this, but like I think is crucial when you are following YouTubers is, who are they sponsoring? How many people are they sponsoring? Are they sponsoring 100 different people? Like, you know, I think it says something about a YouTuber when you're very particular on who you put your name behind, because that says a lot about yourself, because you could so easily sell out for money, brands, you know, things like that. And I always felt like, well, if I'm going to represent something or put my name behind something, I want to make sure that I stand by that company and I know what they're about. And because, you know, if I wouldn't buy it myself, I'm not going to ask other people to buy it as well.
Leilani, what was dating like with Hispanic parents?
I have to say that when it comes to Hispanic parents, it feels just so unfair when you're growing up in the house, because it's like the boys can do whatever they want, whatever they want.
Same with Slavic. So,
and the girls, you stay at home. You stay at home, or you have permission you need permission to go somewhere. And I just remember my brother just being able to go do whatever he wanted to do. He could just skateboard anywhere, come home whenever, anytime. And then for me, it was just like, where is Leilani? Where is she? Where is she? Or you have to be home at this time. Or you need, you know, permission to just, you know, go to the corner store. But for dating, oh my word, I did put my parents through a lot when it came to dating. So finally, my mother was just like, okay. If you're going to see this boy, he's going to come Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you're going to sit on the front stoop of the house for 2 hours, and that's it. So he would come to the house.
Wow.
And he would just come and he would just sit and I would sit. And, you know, my mom every once in a while would look through the window. And then when it was time's up. And like, that's how it was.
Well, looking back, do you feel like your mom was just protecting you?
Yeah, she was.
And now that you have a daughter of your own, do you find yourself drifting in that direction? Be like, all right, we have our guidelines and this is where we're going to stick to.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, that of course, you know, you get mad at your parents for protecting you. You get mad at their rules, but you know, in hindsight, you know, you look back and you realize that it's, you know, for the good, because they love you, they care for you, and they're trying to protect you. When a teenager, you know, you're just at a constant state of growth and you think you know everything, and you start to get resentful and hateful, you know, as a teenager. But as an adult, and then when you have your own children, you see why, you know, that your parents were that way.
Do you have a top 3 favorite recipes that you love to can? Or do you feel like recipes that you go back to no matter what?
Oh, so yeah, I would say we have 3 staples. One would be tomatoes. Tomatoes. I would be so happy if we had nothing but tomatoes in our pantry. Beans, we eat a lot of beans. Right now, 1 can of beans, at least where I'm at, is probably about $1.59, for 1 can of beans. And then for a whole packet, for a 16-ounce packet, I believe it's around the same price. From that 1 packet of dry beans, I can make almost 5 pints.
Wow.
So that's why we do that.
So it's almost 5 times.
Yes.
You're getting 5 times the product of what you're paying for.
Exactly. And that works for our family.
Yeah.
I say can for what you eat.
Yeah.
So we eat a lot of beans. So that would be one. And then the other one is chicken broth. Chicken broth, hands down, for nutrition, for our dogs, for when we get sick. I use it in soups, stews, for so many things, eggs.
So how long have you been blogging now?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
been
a long
4
time.
years.
Was it like around COVID time?
Yes.
That you started?
COVID was a time where everybody's like, well, maybe I should just change my life and do something different.
Yeah. It pushes, I think it pushed a lot of people into more of the blogging and
it certainly
Instagram
changed our lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so in a positive way.
What is your favorite video that you've made so far?
You know what? May I say I have a favorite playlist? Is that okay to say? Okay. So my favorite playlist would be the Amish canning playlist. That has been the heart of my channel. I love that playlist. I've just been able to connect with so many beautiful people. Canning with the Amish, I couldn't believe it. Just to be able to have that under my belt, which was probably the hardest working can I think I've ever done in my life, because those women canned in that one video. We canned, I think, like 4 or 5 different things in one day.
Wow.
Okay. And I needed to hold my weight pull my weight because they were just go nonstop.
It comes naturally to them.
Yes,
That's what they do.
Yes.
That's
and
how
so they
live.
expected me to work. And then, and I did. And then,
well, I feel like now that's why you're qualified to come here and go with us in videos.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's good. Work is good.
Yeah.
Work is good. It's good for people. Yeah. But that and just learning how other cultures, it just broadened just my thoughts of everything, and just coming out of my comfort zone and learning about how other people survived with the process of canning. I love that.
So what do you feel like your ultimate goal with your Instagram and video or YouTube channels are with your social medias?
I feel like I humbly say that I feel like I've already hit those goals. My goals was to grow organically. My goal was to stay at home with my daughter and homeschool her, and was to be able to help out a little financially. And I feel like I've been able to do that. And anything else is just, icing
Added
on
bonus.
the cake.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel so blessed to just be where I'm at right now.
We often hear that, or people would write in, I'm intimidated of canning or scared to can. Someone, because you kind of saw it from someone. Were you ever intimidated? And if for those that are intimidated by it, what suggestion would you give, or what would you tell them that for them not to be afraid?
I work with another creator called Well Folk Revival. She's amazing, and we have done canning classes together over the summer. And when we have to can by USDA standards. And no matter how you can, whether it be USDA or Rebel, there's always a fear. Always a fear of canning. And I just try to tell people to, just first of all, pick an easy recipe that first of all, you and your family are going to eat, and trust the process. You have recipes from, several books, trust that process, and you should be fine. And then there is some, I try to tell people also to maybe start canning with water. So that way you can get the skill set down, then you don't have to worry about the food then,
Well, what if they're like, okay, so what do we do with that water?
Oh, you can keep it.
Just let it stand there.
You could keep it, or you could just, drain it. I mean, I would probably ended up draining it just because I want to empty that jar, but just to get the actual skill set down. And then once you feel like comfortable with that, once you see like once the lids have actually sealed, you know, then they have that confidence to maybe move on. Then they can start incorporating food. And I tell people this especially who have never canned before. Most of the people that come to the classes, they've never canned before. So I just tell them, you know, start with USDA recipes, start with those recipes, and then just go from there. And then slowly your confidence will come. And that's when they're really going to shine in the kitchen. They'll just get that confidence and they'll just keep going and going and going and going. And some of them branch out even more.
Friends, we've been talking about recipes, so we want to do a little giveaway for you. This is a chance for you to post any recipe that you would like to see us do with our next guest that is going to come to visit us. And the recipe that we choose, we're going to give away 100 lids of wide and 100 lids of regular. If you can please post the recipe in the comments below and make sure that it is the full recipe, and then we're gonna go ahead and tag you if we use your recipe. And I think one question that I feel like it's an important one because it helps us reflect. I know that we've talked a little bit about it just on the side, just me and you, but with social media comes the negative comments. How does that affect you, or how do you handle that?
Believe me, if you don't know my content, I have gotten my share of negative comments for sure. And here's the funny thing. I never thought that would happen because going into it, I was so naive. I'm thinking, it's canning. No one's going to yell at me about canning. Yes, they will. You'd be surprised. But you know what? My first reaction, I didn't handle it well. I did have a cry to my husband, and I was just so scared and just didn't know what to do. My response, it took a while. I think the best thing you can do is to make sure you respond as classy as possible. For me, try not to take it too personal and to realize that I believe in what I'm doing and to keep pressing forward. Another thing is that one negative comment can really, really stay in your head if you allow it to. And you can't give yourself permission to give it an audience. So I try to reflect on all the positive comments. And then if it's a really bad day, I don't look at the comments to protect the peace. You know, just to protect myself. But it's something also that's a part of the territory when it comes to YouTube or any type of social media. So you have to find a way to cope with it in a way that you can deal with it. And I think it's so important to never argue with the people who are spreading the negative comments. There is no positivity. There is nothing good that comes with it. And it says a lot about you as a creator too. So to not get into arguments with them, let them say what they have to say, because people are very passionate about the subject and they're allowed to have an opinion. Well,
you were talking about how this has affected you. I think it's like a reminder to all the viewers that your negative comments can really have an effect on a person to run them kind of into a corner. You know, remember that there's another human being on the other side of that's trying and doing the best they can.
Yes. You know, and I try to tell my kids, you know, how disconnected we are from that, how easily it is to speak from a keyboard, and also to remember that, like you said, there is a person behind there, and people come from all over the world. Not everybody has your mindset of things. Not everybody, you know, has grown up the way that you have. People come from different cultures. People have different backgrounds, and they have different ways of doing things. And I think it's important to remember that.
And I think that's the beauty of it, is that we can learn. I feel like as people, that's what we're doing. We're learning as we go along and growing.
And you know, you have to do what you feel is comfortable and right for your family. I think it's different when someone is trying to enforce something on you. But the beautiful thing is that you get to make that choice for yourself.
Well, during these 4 years that you've been blogging, have you ever wanted to quit, to give up?
Oh, yes.
How did you push through that? What was your motivator to keep going?
Just because I knew that it's something that complements my family so well. I've worked so hard for it. And I knew that I felt like this is just what God wanted me to do. Like, this is just what he wanted me to do. I don't know how else to say that. And why should I give it up? I've worked really hard. The other thing that makes you want to give up sometimes is, the constant content. Like there's only so many things I can put in a jar.
Yeah.
It's like, what else are we canning today? What else are we doing today? And, as a YouTuber, I always say, and I don't say this to be negative, but it's true. It's a very lonely profession and you're the boss of everything. So if it's not doing well, it's because of me. If there's no content, it's because of me. If I'm not getting any views, it's because of me.
Where do you find your motivation for your content? Then what inspires you?
You know what? Honestly, people ask me that all the time. And sometimes I will take very long breaks from YouTube because there needs to be some time for creativity to stir and to think, like, for example, when I did my first Amish canning video, I didn't post for almost 2 months. And I interviewed Susie and then I sat on it for a couple more weeks and I just sat and just was like, all right, I need to do this video. Did the video and it was a viral video and that's what started everything. I couldn't believe it. So I think just taking the time, allowing that creativity to come, don't rush it, don't push it. I know YouTube is all about you must post. But for me, I'm like, I can't do that. It needs to come naturally. If I have nothing to give my audience, I'm not going to just put something out there or just pull something out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I want it to be like, okay, this is what I have. I have something to give you and hopefully you'll watch.
What advice would you give to someone that just started blogging?
Oh, I would say take your time. Make sure that you grow organically. Don't fall into what everybody else is doing. Focus on what you can do. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. And don't think that you don't have anything that's worth giving because someone may be able to relate to what you have from your perspective. Take your time. Know that be patient. Because YouTube is a process. Eventually, in time, it will come.
I think it's the process, the waiting. I think that's the hardest, but I think we have to be reminded that you just take time, enjoy the process, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I will say this. In the beginning, yes, you are going to have to put in the effort to post.
Yeah.
You're going to have to. But then later, after you have so much content, in the field, they call it evergreen content. Then you could sit back and relax a little bit in between your postings and then take it easy. But, yeah. I could talk about this all day. I love the subject of getting people started on YouTube.
Definitely. How long have you been with Forjars now?
I think a little bit over 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So almost the same amount of time that you've been blogging. So kind of.
Yes.
Can you share a funny or memorable moment that you've had with Forjars?
I could share my best moments. My best moments is just being in fellowship with the crew and everybody here and just coming here and I feel like my cup is being filled. I really do. And then when I go home, I just feel revived and refreshed because of the energy with just being other people and with like-minded people and just being able to pray together before we start. That to me means so much, so much. And will always be there, always so close to my heart.
We, I think, are thankful for every person that, every blogger was willing to reach out to us and willing to work with us because that's what makes us a family. It's not just us here, but it's every person that is going to stand behind our company and support us.
Yes.
So I think we're appreciative to all of our affiliates
and it's
that
fun.
Are there with us.
And it's so nice to see the company grow and working with other people.
Yeah, because you guys are a part of that.
Yeah.
That's a big part of that's making that happen.
It's fun to see the company grow. It just is. I love it.
You said that was something good, but let's get back to funny.
Okay.
I know we have some funny memories with you.
Yes. Okay. So there's the one time where I'm chasing Mike around with a flip-flop. So there's that.
Leilani, what would you like to wish all the viewers that are going to be watching this podcast?
Well, first of all, I just want to say happy canning because canning season's about to start. Blessings to you and your family. And as always, take care and God bless.
Leilani, thank you so much for taking your time and to come and visit us. It's been a privilege to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me, really.
Viewers, we had such a wonderful time asking Leilani questions. Now we want to ask you, if you have any questions for any of our future guests that are going to be on our podcast, we would love to hear your questions.